So it's my first time in Poland and first time in Krakow, and it's an honor to be here. I know this is one of the most dangerous slots in the day because it's either lunchtime right now or this is the thing that happens that stands between people and lunch, but we'll try to keep it moving and try to keep it interesting. I'm the kind of speaker that if you see me saying something and you want to raise your hand and ask a question and interject, I don't mind stopping and doing Q&A on the spot. There's a small chance that I might go off in a direction that's not quite as interesting as what it could be. So if you want to interject, please feel free. But my presentation is a history of Humble Bundle. And for me, my life in the gaming industry stresses, I feel like, the importance of experimentation. And so who am I? I'm John Graham. I'm a founding member of Wolfire Games and co-founder of Humble Bundle. And I think people don't run enough experiments. And I'm thinking mainly, I think we're very creative when it comes to gameplay and creating new types of art. But I'm talking more about on the business side, that people should be a little bit more comfortable in trying new things with their business. And that I feel like we get stuck in repetitive mode sometimes when really, instead of being afraid of trying the new thing, we should be afraid of not trying the new thing. And I've found throughout my history of the past 9 years that there have been big moments where when you really dig a little deeper, there's inflection points where the downside is small. It's usually the fear of maybe wasting your time, and the upside can be huge. So I just want to, if you take nothing more away from my talk, you should consider experimenting more. And I was thinking for a while about a good quote about the truth that experimentation yields, but I guess a smart person who's already lived came up with a nice one. So William Blake was a poet in the 18th and 19th centuries in Britain, but I like this quote a lot. So there's a lot of dynamic forces out there when we're trying to operate a business in the gaming industry, and I think it's very important not to get caught with a narrow frame of mind, lost in the short term or looking in the rearview mirror about what everybody else is doing, because I think there's common knowledge that goes around that's not quite the reality. People have a tendency to assume what's worked for every other game will work for their game, but every game's a little bit different, and I feel like there get to be a lot of experts that maybe are still figuring things out for themselves as well. And I would urge you, as a caveat, to think critically of my presentation as well, because I only have my 9 years of experience and my limited perspective in the industry. But for me, when I decided to start in video games, people thought it was a crazy idea. My college was designed to get us into iBanking and consulting. That was all the Career Center could really do. And I remember friends bragging about how they had big positions at big banks and were going to be hot shots on Wall Street. But in 2008, when I was trying to find out what to do next with my life, we were on the precipice of the financial meltdown, and friends who had been bragging about their position at Bear Stearns or Lehman Brothers found themselves with nothing. A lot of smart people ended up imploding the economy, and were all experts for a time in their craft. And it kind of reinforced my belief that why can't I try to get into games? I wanted to build something with my hands. I just wanted to get in there. Wasn't afraid of wasting my time and figured I would learn something along the way. So in August 2008, I became one of 5 founding members of Wolfire, and we were seeing an indie renaissance at the time, a lot of games getting out there successfully on their own, straight to customers, not a lot of infrastructure that they needed to build. They were able to self-market and make these great products. So we figured, why not our Ninja Rabbit fighting game, Overgrowth? That was the sequel to something that David Rosen had made in high school. He had made his own graphics and physics engines, and Jeff, his twin brother, had been selling software commercially as well for Amazon merchants. So we thought maybe we could give this a try and make it work. And we figured there would be a couple things we'd have to take care of to get to a successful business. One would be to make a great game, a good quality product that people would enjoy, that looked good, played good, felt good, had fun physics. But the other part of this would be to get noticed and get some sales going, get out there in the market, and have humans actually buy our product. and then we might one day get to phase 3. And so I wasn't worried about the engineering side. As I said, David had been making games since forever. I actually saw him make his first game in 2nd grade. That's Black Shades on the left-hand side there, and then Lugaru HD, the first Ninja Rabbit fighting game. And then these are some recent screenshots of Overgrowth. And I was pretty confident that, the tech would get taken care of. David just added screen space reflections, and he's got some nice ambient lighting. But all the tech aside, once we had a great product, we were going to need to get some sales. And so step 1 we figured was, why don't we try to get people to sell our game? And my task at Wolfire was to cold email the existing platforms and see if established channels might want to sell our game. But unfortunately, there wasn't a lot of momentum behind games that were still in development. So people weren't quite ready to promote our game, and I'm not sure customers were even ready because it wasn't a thing that was being done at scale. There were just a handful of little games that were selling direct pre-orders from their own websites, and we were looking at that and kind of got inspired. But this is a bit of trivia. We actually got a deal. Valve is awesome and very forward-thinking, and were kindly willing to sign a distribution agreement with us in 2008. And that was the first deal I ever did in the industry, was with Mr. Newell. But like I said, they didn't have a way to promote us because we were in early development. But we figured, okay, let's do what other developers are having some success doing. Let's sell the game super early. We were in a phase with the first alpha where it was just blood splattering on a brick block as a tech demo. But we figured we could give people an early alpha if they pre-ordered and develop a close relationship with customers. And I think this is a phase that I'm not saying it would work for every game necessarily, but we felt like we were going on a journey where we'd have a lot to show and tell on. And I'll say that I think this is vital to almost every developer, to build those direct-to-customer relationships. Your site is a friendly place where when people Google for it, your promoted page is often the first result. And then that's someone who likes you and wants to support you often, and you can build that bridge directly to them. If you just rely on platforms, Humble Bundle included, we can't share our mailing list, for example, with every developer that's on the platform, because then there would be no value in the mailing list. But you can build this community right on your site. And step 1 is to have a purchase button. If you're going to sell something, you need to have something that people can buy. And for us, this became our benchmark of success throughout the rest of our development cycle. We could look at our pre-order count and say, how many humans in the world like our game, and what's the rate at which new people are finding us and buying it. But there was a problem. The problem is we were very small, and no one really knew who we were and what we were doing. So we knew the gamers were out there, but we just didn't know how to get to them, how to compel them to buy, how to get them to know we existed. And I've seen a lot of dev teams wait until the very end to get to their PR marketing cycle. And we decided, rather than sit on our hands, that we would do that extremely early and often, and just try hyping the game while it was being developed. And that was that was counterintuitive, I think, to a lot of developers at the time. But your game has unique DNA, and you're going on a unique journey. Not everybody gets to make a game, so why can't you? I feel like it's almost like rocking out along the way, like an indie rock band on stage. People want to know what your experience is, and there's a wealth of things you can talk about that are unique to your game. And in our case, these were some of the things we considered, talking about the setting. But I like this question to ponder because in addition to concept art, I feel like the time lapse is a more interesting thing to watch. When you can see every brushstroke being painted and where it comes from and the order of events, I find it more engaging to look at this journey rather than just the final piece of concept art. So that philosophy we basically applied to developing our game. And we could talk about game design. We were doing a blog post a day for over a year talking about business. We highlighted the fact that 50% of our sales from the first Ninja Rabbit fighting game, Lugaru, came from Mac and Linux. And that was a fairly popular post that got reposted on, I think, Slashdot and other places, and got a lot of people's attention. Tech posts, how David developed his procedural animations. Bugs are actually a really fun thing. I think a lot of developers are ashamed to show bugs, but again, that's a fun part of the process. What you saw, how you fixed it, and then there's usually a goofy thing in the middle, whether it's a animation that went wrong, or in this case, this was a shared memory space where, because I think Mac OS X uses OpenGL, there was a shared place in RAM where Jeff's web browser had been rendered into the same place that Overgrowth was trying to access. So we saw his name. We thought the engine had become sentient for a second, but realized it was just a memory issue that we could then fix. Personal experiences, thoughts, opinions on the industry, or where you take inspiration. Physics is always a gimme. People like watching ragdolls. So those were all ways we were talking about ourselves. But there's also a chance to have other people help tell your story. Beyond reaching out to existing distribution channels, there are people you can reach out to who can help you get the world's attention and can do co-promotions with you, your fellow game developers, or you can try to meet press. And often there's an overlap. It's a very small world. Sometimes the guy that just pre-ordered from you is press and is going to become a game developer, or you'd be surprised how small the industry is. But we were trying all these different tactics, going to meetups, going to conferences. One experiment I tried that wasn't super successful was just waltzing into E3, playing the bagpipes, and just trying to be noticed, be the most conspicuous thing at E3. I was immediately asked for my exhibitor badge, which I didn't have because we had no money, and I had the free industry pass, and security kindly told me not to be playing bagpipes in the building. And then instead of making friends with the press, I ended up being a noise floor on their interviews that they were doing outside. And so they got really mad that the sound of bagpipes were overpowering their interview. And anyway, instead of impressing and building bridges with the press, it actually backfired a little bit. It turned out building a press list online was a better way to go. And we were very active about building a community. It says SPF up there. That's the secret pre-order forum. If you bought our game, you get access to a special part in the forums. And a community started building up there, the best modders. And we included the modding tools for our game right alongside the game, the tools that we were using ourselves to craft levels. We wanted the fans to have those too. And then we manned live chats, a public IRC chat. I was usually awake 17 hours a day, logged in through, I guess it was Meebo at the time. So anybody could visit our site and chat with somebody on the development team and learn about the game or get help with their pre-order if they had an issue downloading the game. So we were trying everything. These are some early mods. And we called this open development. So it's the idea of trying to be as open as you can with the community around you. It makes your site engaging and a little more sticky. And you can almost let your community be your project manager of sorts, hearing their feedback. They're helping play test for you. They're interacting with content and telling you what's great and what's less great. And we found that by doing all of this, we increased the steady state back to that benchmark of pre-orders over time. However, we still weren't quite as in the money as we wanted to be. I think we were maybe Subway sandwich sustainable for our team, above the like ramen for everyone threshold, but still not really considering it a major business yet. And living at home with our parents to save rent. But we noticed another thing going on around us. The internet really likes limited time discounts. And we would see that when Steam ran a discount curated, that all of Reddit would explode. And they would just, they couldn't get over how excited they were. We also saw World of Goo do an amazing Pay What You Want promotion for its 1-year anniversary. And we were kind of looking at all these factors and saying to ourselves, well, we can't get into other platforms' limited time sales, but could we run one on our own? And this was the very first bundle of sorts. It was called the Organic Indie Pre-Order Pack. We took Overgrowth and Natural Selection 2, and we made them together 40% off normally it would cost you $70 to get them separately, and we made them available for $39.95. Made a little site, a little promotional video, contacted our friends in the press, contacted our communities, and we were hoping to sell maybe 1,000 packs, and we ended up selling 1,600. I sort of bet the internet that we wouldn't sell 1,000 units, and then when we did, I had to dye my beard pink. That's not Photoshop, I swear, but it was at night, and the flash kind of lit it up, so it looks like cotton candy. And then we were thinking, okay, we just did our own limited time promotion with a bundle of games. Maybe we can harness that pay what you want thing that we saw from World of Goo, but maybe with a pack of games. And we had seen the virtues of supporting Mac and Linux previously, with 50% of our sales coming from there. And we loved the DRM-free spirit. We wanted to trust customers, do something really awesome. And one key innovation was helping charity, so that it wasn't just a cost function. We wanted people to feel good while interacting with the site, and help out with the social good a little bit while trying to make the rest of the promotion awesome too. So we layered in every single awesome thing we could think of together. And I still remember my parents, there was the dinner before we launched, because I was living at home. I was trying to explain what this promotion was, and they just thought it was the strangest thing they'd ever heard. It's like, let me get this straight. You're going to let people pay a penny for $80 worth of video games, and you expect to make money somehow off of this? But it was something in our gut that we knew we had to try. That worst case scenario, nobody bought it. Maybe we wasted our time. We would move on to the next thing. But we wanted to at least launch it and see what would happen. And it ended up working. And we got to over $1 million in sales. After about 10 days, $1.27 million came in. There's a lot of purchases, 138,000. Jeff and I were foolish, and we're trying to do customer support from a shared Gmail account because we didn't expect to have that many tickets coming in. And we actually did it without Steam keys, but we noticed from the direct customer feedback that a lot of people were requesting Steam keys, and we didn't know if we could provide Steam keys, but we knew we should try on behalf of the customers, and Steam was awesome and let us offer them to everyone. And it was a very cool event that set a precedent forevermore. But it was also kind of scary. This little indie studio was now processing millions of dollars in payments, and we were collecting funds, doing charitable fundraising, international tax laws and compliance. I think one of the payment processors froze our accounts. Jeff and I had pulled all-nighters just to launch the thing in the first place. Then we're doing all-nighters to do customer support. And we weren't entirely convinced that we wouldn't go to jail when this thing was done. We were just freaking out, light on sleep, and trying to imagine where this could go next. But the other problem too is it was a lot of work, and we couldn't really build a business off of just having our own Ninja Rabbit fighting game, Lugaru, in every bundle. So we needed to think about how could we turn this maybe into a platform. But the one problem that we had created for ourselves is we wanted to make this new entity. We had branded the promotion in the Humble Indie Bundle as no corporate middleman is taking a fee. And so how could we then incorporate and then be this middleman platform and try to make a business of it? How could we still maintain the spirit of the bundle? And so the big experiment there was what people know now as the Humble Tip, and just being more like a digital distribution waiter and saying, hey, you don't have to pay us anything, but if you value what we're doing, maybe you could chip in a little something. But you still have the flexibility to give 100% to charity or all to the devs or whatever you want to do. And we weren't even sure if the whole bundle at the macro level would even work again, if there would still be that same amount of energy on the next one. But again, we knew we had to try, and it would just be at the cost of our time and a little experimentation. And Humble Indie Bundle 2 ended up working again, clocking in at $1.8 million in sales. So we were really excited about that. And then somebody pushed us out of our comfort zone. There was a development studio, Frozen Byte. They're awesome, and we enjoy working with them regularly. But this guy, Mikhail, who was working for them, just said, hey, we're going to do a pay what you want plus charity bundle, and we're going to do it whether or not you want to work with us, but we'd rather do it with you. So they kind of forced our hand. It's like, well, we would kind of rather have them do it with us too. We've never done a single studio bundle before. Will the thing work? And it ended up being nearly a $1 million promotion, and established that we could do single studio promotions, which then sort of broadened the experimentation we could do with the Humble Bundle model. And then additionally, in 2012, we were working on different types of bundles. Props to 11-Bit for being with us with Anomaly in the first PC Android bundle we've ever done, which really, that started a new vertical for us. We tried a music bundle, and the ebook vertical is now growing and a very big part of our business. Later in 2012, THQ started talking to us, and we had originally hoped that we could try to work with big publishers to port their games to Mac and Linux and maybe try to do DRM-free work with them, but for a multitude of reasons, this wasn't going to be possible. But they were going to give us Saints Row the Third, and in November 2012, that was a pretty big deal to put into a pay-what-you-want bundle. But we had to think, we're about to launch this thing DRM locked, Windows only. We've never done this before. And friends of ours in the press were ready to slam us. They just were saying, what are you doing, Humble Bundle? Are you abandoning your roots? What is this? And we got to message that, well, we think it's an awesome thing that we can do in addition to Humble Indie Bundles. We never want to abandon the Humble Indie Bundle and the framework for that vertical, but we also want to try experiments in addition to that. And that bundle was very successful. The press kind of had to redact and update their articles as we crossed. I think it was almost a $5 million bundle or something for the THQ bundle. So it was a big deal. We had a similar situation with the Origin bundle where we wondered, can we offer non-Steam key content? And it turned out that EA was really throwing all their weight behind this promotion. They were being super awesome. They actually provided Steam keys for everything that had a Steam key. And then they also forewent their cut and redirected it all to charity. So I remember launching it, and I think somehow EA had been voted one of the worst companies to work for or something 2 years in a row. But and then they stopped receiving that right after the Origin bundle. I don't know if there's a correlation or what, but EA was just being totally awesome. They raised $8.5 million for charity in that event. And Reddit, I remember looking at all the comments. People came out wanting to be antagonistic, and they were like, this is actually really awesome. I think Notch himself tweeted like, hey guys, this is actually a great thing. And yeah, but it definitely was pushing the business into new sectors. And then we've continued to experiment with the bundle model. We added fixed tiers, and we noticed that when done right, fixed tiers can put a little upward pressure on the average price paid without harming conversions, sort of a revenue maximizer. And it's a little subjective because each roster of content is different. We've added merch tiers, so if you're a super user and you want to pay $40 to get a t-shirt, you can do that. We even had some tickets for John Wick 2 when we did a promotion with, I think it was Lionsgate and Starbreeze, which was pretty fun. So, and then more recently, we've added a partner program so that internet celebrities who have a community can refer people to our site, and they can get a cut of sales that they drive onto the site, and they can also choose a default charity that they and their community care about. So it's sort of on one part philanthropic, on one part referral system. And then, of course, we're experimenting with more types of bundles. We've had a lot of fun doing the Fortnights with Double Fine and do a big charity fundraiser with Yogscast in December. Usually we've done E3 digital tickets. The Freedom Bundle was a pretty huge bundle where we raised $6.7 million for charity to take a stand against the immigration ban. And that was a kind of a really big movement from the gaming industry around us that we were honored to be a part of. But we've been thinking always, what else can we do to be useful? And we really like thinking about the game development cycle as a whole. from initial concept to, game's been launched and out for a couple years. And we've tried to add products that allow us to work with developers at these various phases, in addition to just sort of the post-launch bundle portion. And I already got to talk about the Humble widget a little bit. I strongly urge developers to use this or something like this to sell right off their site and build their own community. We're powering, I think, about 3,000 games right now and work with companies big and small. And we've got the Humble store, which sells fixed price games while raising money for charity, and we do curated mega sales. We've got our spring sale going on right now, and have a growing number of partners there. We did launch the Humble Monthly in October of 2015. That's the $12 a month fee to get 5 to 7 amazing games. You're usually getting over $100 of value. It's like a premium bundle curation, but you have to pay us $12, mostly blind. There's 1 or 2 early unlocks that you can see up front, but you mainly have to trust us as curators. But that's going pretty well for us. And we announced publishing in February of 2017. We've got 7 titles, and we hope to keep growing our portfolio over time. But as I was saying, the high-level goal with these experiments is to find ways. The product flow is just as I've highlighted it there, like from front to back. When you have an initial idea and an early prototype, we can help you turn it into a reality through publishing. When you want to sell early pre-orders, you could talk to us about a widget. When you're getting close to launch, you can appear on our store. A lot of people show up in the monthly when they've just launched, maybe within 6 months of launching. And then bundles are something that people often do maybe a year from launch or a little more. And we want to keep experimenting to try to be useful in other ways as well. But this is all just a stack of iterating attempts to bring customers together with amazing gaming content. And I didn't even know if I'd have a job in the industry. And then when I had a job in the industry, I didn't know how long it would last. And I think really all I am is just a stack of experiments. And I think innovation is key to relevance and survival in the gaming industry. I don't think any of us ever get to stand still. I think we always have to be questing to do something different and exciting and new. And experiments often really get us there. And I think if you dig deep, you can think of ways in your own business where you land in that have to try zone of, this really wouldn't take that much time and it wouldn't cause that much harm if it doesn't work. Usually the problem you face with a failed experiment is nobody knows about it and nobody cares, which doesn't devastate your business. It just means you wasted your time. But if you win with the lottery ticket, you throw 100 darts at the wall, you're going to hit maybe 10 bullseyes or whatever. But if you throw no darts at the wall, you won't really learn too much and drive the industry forward. So, and the other reality is every game is different. So you can't just recycle the advice of somebody else. An experiment that you do with your game or your company teaches you about the landscape that's around you. So I think that's also one of the key components, that even if you don't invent even if you don't become a industry thought leader or something, you'll have learned more about your community and how it works, which is vital to your business and your part of the internet. And thanks to everyone's support over the past 7 years of Humble Bundle's existence, we've now raised over $95 million for charity, which is a huge number. Never expected that to be possible in this amount of time, and it's a real credit to everyone's support, the gamers that participate in buying our bundles and the developers that venture into these promotions with their content with us. And if you can think of more experiments you might want to run with Humble Bundle, you should definitely reach out. We want to hear from you. So that's the end of my talk. I intentionally wanted to run it about 30 minutes so that we could have a question and answer session. And you've gotten to hear the whole story as best as I could tell it in 30 minutes from front to back. If you wanted to dive into the Humble Bundle side more, or the game development side more, or anything in between, feel free. Or you can run away for lunch if we want to stop early. But
questions? Okay.
Yeah, thanks for the talk. So 95 million's a lot. How current is that figure?
It's current.
As of now, right?
I think it's in the high, like we're creeping up on 96.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, so but obviously the Humble Freedom Bundle, like that's a significant portion of that 95 million, right? But I did wonder if you have to be slightly careful about involving the political side of things in what you do. I mean, obviously charity, it was for a charity, but it's also completely tied to some pretty divisive political issues. I mean, what's your feeling on that going forward?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting question. We try not to overstep our bounds, and we actually have a choose a charity function on our site that lets the individual support whatever cause they care. We've now integrated 35,000 501c3s via the PayPal Giving Fund. So when you buy from our store or a bundle, you can actually choose a charity that you like and then use the sliders to not give to the charities we've curated and then max out the choose a charity function. But you're right that the Humble Freedom Bundle was a little bit bolder than what we normally do, but we were seeing from our employees and from everyone we know in the industry around us that people were getting a little frustrated and wanted to do something. And Jeff and I kept looking at each other thinking, you know, what good are we as a charitable fundraising platform if we can't take a stand with everybody and try to galvanize the energy around this in a productive way? And you know, you don't have to buy a bundle when we run it. So I think if people disagreed with every single one of the charities, then they maybe didn't need to buy the bundle. If they disagreed with two of the charities but not one, they could have used the sliders to support that one and not the other two. So we really try to maintain that user choice in what we do while trying to be supportive when we think there's a need for it of awesome causes. So it's more of a subtle art than a science, but good question.
So we have the next one.
You mentioned platform-locked bundles. What about region-locked ones with PS? Do you feel that that's the right direction and you should keep on doing those, or are you looking to actually open them up?
Well, we tend to think of ourselves more as shepherds than dictators, and there are limits from licensing deals and the way the technology is built, or local laws in countries that prohibit certain types of content, maybe banning violent content. And while we like to try to be one size fits all and go global with all of our promotions, we do run into limits sometimes, and there is friction for the people that can't participate in those promotions due to that restriction. But it kind of goes back to that same question we faced with the THQ bundle of, well, here's a Windows-only promotion. It's not going to really help people that love Mac and Linux that much. But can we run it anyway, in addition to, you know, getting Humble Indie bundles out the door that are DRM-free Mac, Windows, and Linux? And we have to weigh that opportunity when it comes. I think some of our console bundles have been America only, and that was just the only way to get a console bundle off the ground the first time. But usually when we get more trust and establish the model, things start to expand and loosen up over time. And my hope is that as we become more prominent in the industry, we can gently advocate for more and more openness and less region restriction or other restriction, and try to make things more available to everyone.
Okay, someone else? Okay.
With all the different, I'm here, hi.
Hey.
With all the different ventures under Humble brand, how important is your regular fixed price store? What are your plans for that, and what do you believe are the major strengths and threats for the development of this particular product?
Yeah, the Humble store is interesting because, you know, fixed prices are not really where Humble Bundle came from originally, but the store is a beautiful way to find exactly the thing you're looking for. So you might check what bundles are being promoted first, if you're in your daily cycle or weekly cycle. But then if you're not finding what you want in an active bundle, the store is the perfect way to find exactly that game. And then there are some benefits like you can get rewards credit as you purchase. When you buy from the Humble store, you can get a discount for your next purchase. If you're a subscriber, you can get a discount on Humble store purchases in general. And I think there might be other ways we can add Humble store wallet credit in clever ways to participation in whatever promotions we're running. So I think it is a nice glue force that kind of ties everything together and fills in. Not only has its own great noteworthy promotions like the spring sale that's going on right now, which does high volumes and creates a spectacle of promoted, discounted games all at once, but also nests nicely alongside in a way that complements our other products and lets you round out your library. So it's different for sure, but is it a relevant and growing part of our business? Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, hi. I actually have a question about your prices. My wife was asking me about it, and I was like, yeah, you're actually right. Because, see, the games are like 1 penny, start at the price of 1 penny, right? So could you maybe elaborate on that? I mean, what do developers get out of that? Do you have any sort of sore losers where developers are unhappy with the money they raise?
Yeah, I don't think we have too many or any really sore losers. I think when you do a bundle, you're signing up for the whole spectrum. And we try to be very transparent with, you're going to have customers of all types coming in. So a large mechanic of the bundle is the promotion power, getting the game into the hands of users. And then, of course, the revenues stack up to be meaningful as well. But I think if you're going in with price sensitivity as a developer, maybe you want to have a conversation with us about being in the fixed tier or in the beat the average tier. Those are the options you can have for not just being raw, pay what you want. There's a whole spectrum of slots that you can fit in. And we only want developers to participate where they feel comfortable.
A follow-up question then. So do developers get to choose their price tier?
Well, it's a conversation. So we have a spectrum of slots. There's the core pay what you want tier. There's a beat the average tier. There's sometimes a $10 fixed tier. And the content is sprinkled across those things. So if you just participate in the pay what you want section and try to penny purchase, you would only get DRM free builds of the core tier. If you beat the average, you would get some extra games. If you paid $10 or more, you would get the fixed price game or games. So it's kind of like a Kickstarter rewards mechanism. And there are price floors even in the bundles now. I was mentioning that as experiments we've been trying with the bundles to enhance. And when we do it right, as I was saying, you can lift the average price paid across the promotion while not hurting conversions of users onto the promotion. But it's an art more than a science because each roster of content is different.
Okay, one more.
Thanks. Thanks for the presentation. Thanks for creating a Humble Bundle too. I think that when you created, once again, that in the context, it was completely new for indie developers. I've got a quick question. How big is your team now? And do you have feedback or give feedback, I'm not following much, on the donation part and like helping part, like the partner are suddenly super happy to have those funds raised and just like giving you feedbacks about, hey, it helped doing this, and how do you communicate with your with the crowd about that, which is important for a lot of them using the platform?
Good questions. So the first question is, how big are we? And we're about 60 employees now, up from 2 guys launching bundles from our parents' houses. So it's, it feels big in some ways, but based on all the things we have going on too, we're still gently hiring because there's always more we want to improve on all sides of the business. And with all these products, a website never sleeps. But back to how do we hear about and message the good that's being done from the funds that we provide to charities. And I think that's something we still want to improve on. But we do work closely with partners, and they do create annual messages. We're not always sure how to convey that back to the end user. We get to hear inside scoop sometimes when Charity Water will come visit our team for lunch and show us all the wells they built, and we've tried to blog it when we can. But the tightest mechanism we've found so far is for the recurring monthly subscription. We can predict about how many charitable funds we're going to raise for the featured charity for that month, and then we'll try to prepay those funds to the charity so that by the time the month is announced, we actually have a video from the charity thanking everyone on the page launched with the content drop saying, by subscribing for this month, here's what you helped do in the world. And that I really like, and I think we can get better. One thing we're brainstorming is a featured charity for the month, and that'll be the same kind of thing. Maybe we can go site-wide with a particular charity and then work with them to really tightly message all the good that happened from that month, similar to how we're already doing it with the subscription, but site-wide. But we still could probably get better in other ways as well. It's tricky. And when it's a charity like the EFF, say, it's hard to measure hours litigated or something. When they were doing the Stop Online Piracy Act, fighting that because Congress was doing something weird that was going to hurt consumers, it's hard to measure lobbying time and litigation time, but I think we can get better on all fronts.
One more from me. Yeah, so I did wonder, because of like the nature of the good work that you do, whether you had and now that you're going into publishing, like whether you had a particular interest or a preference for games that actually touch on real world issues. I mean, you talked about working with 11-bit before their game This War of Mine. They work with War Child, like and there are more and more of these games now that want to kind of recognise what happens in the world.
Yeah, well, I think we wouldn't require that, but I think when you ground your development in something real and tangible like that, you tend to do something more artistic or more resonant with consumers. So I think if you're sincere and find the right approach to that, it can result in a better game. At the end of the day, for our publishing initiative, we're looking for good games made by a good team who that we think already has the skills to make a great game. It's not their first time trying to make a game ever or whatever. And then we want to make sure the financials make sense for us and for them, that everyone feels good about the model we would build together. Those are our primary thoughts: is team, game, and then the funding plan. But that I feel like inevitably we're going to overlap with games that have a message or have some soul power to them.
Okay, thank you very much. Someone else? Thank you, John. Thank you very much.
Thank you.